I have talked about these crochet squares in a couple videos before. They are squares that I made to track my mental health progress, and the idea was that I'll make a blanket out of them to look back on. But it just didn't work out for me and I dropped the project. I have tried to think on what to do with them. Should I make a tote bag, a sweater, or a pillowcase? None of that sat right with me, so I decided to frog them. Sometimes it's just better to start over. For the past couple weeks, I've picked up knitting again. I've been making some swatches just to practice knitting a bit more, and I even made a cable swatch for the first time ever. I know, very exciting stuff. Maybe I put too many pins for this gigantic swatch, but you can never have enough pins, can you? But who wants to keep making swatches just to practice knitting? Yesterday I wanted to actually take on a project and not just keep making different swatches. I wanted to take on a project that's easy enough for beginners, but would also help me learn more about some notions like increases, color change, neckline shaping, and basic constructions of garments. This Sailor Swift top by Veronica Lindberg, or Kutovakika, was perfect for what I was looking for. I proceeded to ignore all of the beautiful cotton yarn in my yarn stash, and I picked up these squares and started frogging them as I worked on the top. This is my progress for the last few days. I managed to knit the upper part of the back, and now I'm working on the shaping of the neckline. I'm using some scrap yarn here instead of stitch holder cords because I'm not fancy, nor am I an avid knitter, so I don't really need them. What I'll need though is a good tapestry needle for all of those loose ends later, but that's entirely my fault. I don't know if you can see it, but my stitches don't really look like V's, which is what a stockinette stitch is supposed to look like. It looks like there are some columns of twisted yarn between the stitches. I thought that it has to do with my tension, but after a lot of trial and error and a lot of research, it has everything to do with the yarn. Maybe a little bit to do with my tension as well. Some types of yarn just do this. They twist in a weird way and it works against your stitches. So instead of getting bothered by it, I just learned to appreciate the different texture. While working on this, I actually applied for a visa for the 100th time, and this time I got it. And I went on a much needed trip to Bosnia, which is actually what I posted about in my last video, but here's some more footage for you anyway. I didn't work that much on the top these days because I just wanted to unwind, but here's what I did so far. As you can see, I've already attached the back and the front together, and now I'm working in the round for as long as I want the top to be. Yes, your eyes do not deceive you. My stitches are indeed out of my knitting needles. My interchangeable needles got unscrewed and got pulled out of the project. And this is what I have to work with. But it's no big deal because I can either pick the live stitches, or if I've lost multiple stitches already, I can go back a few rows and pick up my stitches from there. But I'm not going to do any of that because I have tried the top on and I don't like how it feels on my skin or how it fits. FYI, this is 100% acrylic yarn, so for future knitwear I will use either a cotton blend or a type of yarn that's good for sensitive skin. I'm gonna have to do a bit of trial and error there. But yeah, no more acrylic yarn, at least for garments that have direct contact with my skin. So naturally I am going to frog this, but before I do, I'm going to go over things that I've learned while working on this. First of all, this is where I worked in the round and my stitches still have those twisted columns in them, which means that I've only been knitting in the round, not knitting and purling, which in turn means that I can rule out that I have a tension problem, at least for now. Just as a side note, this is the first time I do color changing and stripes while knitting, and I never really liked the back of the stockinette stitch, which has the same look of a garter stitch. But I do like how the stripes look because of those two lines of the contrasting color. I think I might make something just using garter stitch and color changes because that looks really cool and retro. Okay, back to the things I learned. The first thing is the shaping of the neckline from the front and the back. When I'm working from the straps here, I'm doing increases, which is adding a stitch or two in each row, depending on the pattern of course, which is what gives that round shape. The second thing I've learned is casting on a whole new section while I already have some knitted fabric on my needles. I don't know if that makes sense, but I don't know how else to explain it. Once I started working in the round, I learned how to do jogless seams for the color changes, which I didn't really do a great job at because you could clearly see the stair effect here, and of course there's a random huge gap right there. But what matters is that I actually picked up a new technique that I can use in my next projects. Now, this yarn has been cut and joined in so many places and it's gone through stuff, so I don't think I'll make any other wearables with it. I want to make a scrap yarn project out of it, and I think I know just the thing. Initially, I saw this. It's called the Square One Bag by TL Yarn Crafts. We all know her and love her, but this is crochet and I still want to practice knitting. So I just looked for a basic drawstring bag, and I was lucky enough to find this free tutorial on YouTube, and I'll let you know how it goes. This time I decided to work with 2 strands of yarn to make the bag a bit thick, so I grabbed my 5mm needles and my cables and got to work. First thing I have to do is casting on a number of stitches depending on how big I want the bag to be. I followed the tutorial here and I cast on 72 stitches using the long tail cast on method. I'm using the magic loop technique here because the circumference of the bag is way too small for the cables I had. I should probably try to knit with double pointed needles at some point because it's much easier and less annoying than the magic loop, but for now, magic loop it is. The weather changed and it started raining, and I suddenly turned into a goblin wrapped in a blanket with a cup of tea in my hands. I don't know how that happened, but anyway, I'll let you enjoy this beautiful weather. I quickly worked up a good number of rows, including the row with the holes where the drawstring will go through, but can we ignore that for a second and appreciate those beautiful colors? Using 2 strands of different colors kind of alternated which strand will be visible, and you can't really control that, which is why it looks like a random color pattern, and I feel like that would look really nice on a sweater. Hey there, I'm on a layover in London. I had a red-eye flight and I'm a bit tired. Even though I brought everything with me, my yarn, my knitting, my camera even, I don't think I have the energy to do any of that. Now, since I'm in the UK, I want to mention a non-profit organization that's based in the UK and it's called Medical Aid for Palestinians, or MAP. They work on providing medical aid for people in immediate need, and in the long term, they also work on developing the medical system in Palestine. So if you want to support them, I'll link them in the description, and I'll see you a bit later when I feel like knitting. So today I actually wanted to film outside. I wanted to film at a cafe or something, have a coffee there and knit there. Instead, I'm at home, I'm a little under the weather, my throat feels like it's gonna fall off, and I'm sipping on some ginger tea with honey. It's getting progressively darker outside, so the lighting will continue changing randomly, like right now. That's better. So up until I had to do the increases, I was just working on the length of the pouch, and I reached the length that I want. First of all, the colors. gorgeous. Am I right? So yeah, I worked on the length of the pouch until I reached the length that I wanted, and then I started doing decreases. I got it this far. There's a little bit of a hole going on. I still have a bit more to go until this hole closes up, and I'm still following the tutorial, by the way. It's great. It's very easy to follow. And now I'm gonna continue working on this until my next checkpoint. I actually didn't have anything else to do besides closing the hole and weaving in the ends, and that's what I'm doing here. At this point, I realized that these decreases is how beanies are finished off, with some slight changes of course, and I was so stoked that I learned that without meaning to. This is what the bag looks like so far. Now all I had to do was weave in the rest of the ends and make one drawstring, then pretend to conjure the other. Honestly, it's not as cool as I thought it would be, but moving on. I then worked those 2 strings through the holes and then I went to sleep. Good morning. It's evening actually. I'm filming on the ground, by the way, in the same corner, and I'm not gonna show you any other part of my room because it is an absolute mess out here. As you may or may not know, I mentioned in my last video that I have quit my job as a flight attendant and I am packing up my stuff and everything I own. I was super busy these past few days. I've been having red-eye flights back to back and I could barely function during the day when I'm off work, and I couldn't really film after I finished the drawstring bag. Here it is, by the way. It's very cute. It is small. It definitely will not hold any big projects, so I will definitely use it for small projects. But I will still need a proper project bag for bigger projects. But I really don't want to make a bigger version of this because this was so time consuming. And I couldn't stop thinking about the square one bag by TL Yarn Crafts, the bag that inspired me to make this drawstring bag. So I actually decided to start making it in between flights and as a way to unwind as well. So I did not film my progress, but here is how it looks like now. It's so much bigger. I can fit so much yarn in there, as you can see. Initially, actually, when I first started working on it, it was way bigger than this, and I had to just frog some of it and redo it because it was simply too big. This is the perfect size right now. I made it with crochet linen stitches, so it is fairly quick to work up, but it was a bit rough on my wrist because I had to make sure that the stitches are all tight together so that the structure of it looks nice and put together. I also made it with double yarn strands because I was so in love with how this one looked, and I'm happy to say that I'm not disappointed at all. It looks beautiful and it looks very different and similar at the same time to the drawstring bag. Here they are side by side. I am not done with it yet. I still have a few more rows to go and I'm gonna do them on camera. The last 4 rows of this bag is made with double crochet stitches because it allows for enough space for the strings to go through. By the way, just putting this out there, Tony has a free version of this pattern on her blog, which is the one that I'm following, but she also has an ad-free version that you can purchase. Hey, so I finished the project bag yesterday actually, but it was at 2 a.m. and I decided that I didn't want to film at that time. So here it is. I can fit a lot of yarn in it, plus whatever project I'm working on. I can even fit the other drawstring bag. Here's the difference, by the way. The size difference is laughable, but I still love the knit one as well. It's very cute, it's very small. It's good for small projects if you're traveling or on the go, but for the crochet bag, it's more for in the house uses. My only issue with this is that I dragged this project so long, even though it was such a small one. I've been working on this for 2 months because I've been, on and off work, but also I think I was procrastinating a lot because it was a small project. Because if it was a bigger project, I would have worked day and night to just finish it and be done with it. But I've noticed that whenever it's a small project, I always drag it way longer than it should be. I think if I really want to take my knitting skill to the next level, I have to start making actual clothing. But for this one, I really was not in love with the yarn, which is why I switched to these bags. And by the way, this is what I have left of the mental health blanket squares. This little yarn of ball and this square. And I didn't use it only because I could not frog it for the life of me. It's just that the ends were weaved in way too good. I weaved the ends in between strands of yarn, like splitting the strands of yarn and weaving them in so many times that if I try to take this apart, I will not get any good yarn strands out of it. So I'm just gonna keep it as it is. I think it's gonna be just decoration somewhere. But I'm very happy that I used almost all of the yarn. There's no wastage going on, and I'm definitely going to use these bags. It's really very handy and it's very sturdy as well. I was surprised. And because of that reason, because I dragged it for so long, I feel like I'm happy with the project. I just feel underwhelmed, like it's very anticlimactic. And I'm having a strong urge that I shouldn't be posting this because it's so boring, but I know it's just in my head. And even if it's boring, so what? Some of you will find it not boring. That's enough for me to keep posting this. I don't know if you get me, but what I'm saying is that I don't feel that this is very creative, but not everything has to be creative, I guess. It's just, I just have to keep making stuff to get inspired. And besides, this was meant to be practice for bigger knit projects anyway, so I don't know what I was expecting. However, one big thing that this project taught me is don't be afraid to start over, because this started off as a bunch of squares for a mental health blanket that was gonna sit there anyway because I wasn't gonna finish because I don't have enough data to finish it, and I lost interest in finishing it. And then the idea was to make it a top, a tank top or whatever, but I didn't like the feeling of the yarn and I didn't want to finish the top for it to just sit there and do nothing. Even though the yarn was beat up, was cut off so many times and knotted, if you look properly you will find more than 30 knots in these projects, or even 50 knots. If it was the old me, I would have just thrown the yarn away, but I don't want to do that. So I settled on making something functional with a very fragile yarn, and it worked out great. So it is always okay to start over, even with crafts and creative things. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope you've enjoyed the little clips from my travels. If you want to see more of that trip, you can watch my previous video, which is a vlog. And take care until I see you next time. Bye!